Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning. It's my distinct pleasure to welcome you all to the DWIA Week in Africa. I would like to begin by thanking Cabinet Secretary Betty Maina of the Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development for the Republic of Kenya, as well as our partners for organizing this special segments on boosting trade between the UAE and Africa. The UAE is deeply committed to strengthening our economic partnership with Africa to achieve our shared goal of development, progress, and prosperity. In fact, the UAE has long-standing relations with many African countries, underpinned by strong trade and investment ties. In 2019, non-oil trade between the UAE and Africa increased by 14%, reached nearly $50 billion, compared to $43.9 billion in 2018. The UAE is also the second largest investor from the Middle East and its top trade partner in the GCC region. Thanks to Africa's dynamic and fast-growing economy, there is a significant potential to further strengthen economic ties between the UAE and communities across Africa. And as the African continent's free trade areas continues to evolve, I'm certain there will be many new trade and investment opportunities to explore. For example, Africa's natural resources, as well as its energy infrastructure and agriculture sectors, provide promising prospects to deepen economic cooperation. And the UAE is taking steps to further diversify our economy by encouraging FDI in priority sectors such as manufacturing, e-commerce, financial services, education, and healthcare. There are, of course, many other sectors that have been explored together with Africa to help our economies grow. The UAE believes that increased partnership and cooperation with governments and the private sector will be key to building a stronger and more resilient post-COVID economy. As such, platform like this week virtual trade mission will be instrumental to bridging the gap between nations and supporting global efforts to strengthen international trade and investment. Through this platform, we hope we will uncover new ideas and investment opportunities needed to make the global economy more competitive, more vibrant, and more prosperous. The UAE looks forward to working with the African governments and business communities to enhance UAE-Africa relations and drive greater economic growth. Thank you for your participation today, and we're looking forward to see you here in Dubai sometime soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I am pleased to welcome, I am pleased to welcome Honorable Betty Maina, Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development from the Government of Kenya to deliver her remarks.
Good morning. I'm not Betty Maina, but my name is Lawrence Karanja, the deputy to Honorable Betty Maina, who is not able to join you because she's in another ongoing meeting now. Therefore, I'm going to make a presentation on her behalf. Your Excellencies present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is our pleasure to be with you this morning on behalf of the government of Kenya. We welcome your kind invitation to be your guest of honor today. At the outset, we underscore the importance of the occasion as a platform to discuss and chart way forward to enhance good cooperation between our two countries, as well as address opportunities that may be gained as a result. This virtual trade mission is focused on developing a stronger and more resilient trade relations between UAE and evolving Africa communities. We take this opportunity to thank and congratulate UAE Trade Center, Dubai Export, and Kenya National Chamber of Commerce for organizing this event. Dubai Africa Week illustrates a commitment to collaboration that will continue to even a more engaged, empowered, and enabled private sector that is capable of achieving high-level performance, particularly during this pandemic. We commend the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and the UAE Trade Center for signing an MOU that aims to boost bilateral ties between Kenya and UAE. Kenya's strategic location makes it a gateway for international business seeking to penetrate East Africa and Central African region. Therefore, the UAE Trade Center will promote and facilitate UAE Kenya companies by promoting a conducive business opportunities and providing full support to assess the market, and that is extensive market research and analysis, and offering quality service. An online platform will also be established to aid Kenya importers and exporters to gain access to reliable and reputable business partners in UAE. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya and Dubai have enjoyed a favorable trade relationship for over 40 years. Dubai has long been regarded as a gateway of trade between Kenya and the rest of the world. The relationship between Kenya and the UAE have been marked by huge trade imbalance in favor of UAE. Last year, UAE exported to Kenya product worth about 200 billion, whereas to Kenya, and those goods were largely machineries and electronics, manufactured articles, and textile, while Kenya sold about 30 billion to Dubai. Kenya exports in the same period were mainly vegetables and live animals. Kenya export to the UAE in 2019 was about USD 379 million, according to United Nations Comrade database on international trade. In addition to being a major supplier of oil to Kenya, UAE has emerged as a favored shopping destination for Kenyans who travel regularly to purchase household and office electronics and appliances, automobile spare parts, and motor vehicles. Most Kenya purchase their merchandise, especially electronics and garments, at wholesale price in Kenya, in UAE for resale in the country, making a good profit. Also, it's important to note that we have over 40,000 Kenyans living and working in UAE, mainly in hospitality, aviation, security, medical, construction, engineering, and telecommunication sector. On the other hand, Dubai-based real estate firms have been doing business with Kenyans looking for purchasers of luxurious properties, mainly consisting of residential apartments. There is also a lot of potential in horticulture, agro-processing, leather, and livestock sector. Kenya also prides itself with a very competitive manufacturing sector, which includes paper production, textile and apparel, metal engineering, and motor vehicle assembly. Therefore, cooperation between Kenya and UAE presents an excellent investment opportunity, allowed the Big Four agenda that seek to grow manufacturing, health, and food security. I would also like to briefly mention the Africa Continental Free Trade Area that offers a window of opportunity for African countries to boost intra-Africa trade and to diversify structural transformation and meet the human rights objectives and poverty-related goals to which the continent is committed under the Agenda 2063. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area is also expected to encourage industrialization on the continent through development of regional value chains and more diversified intra-Africa trade. It is therefore critical from the onset to establish what the Africa Continental Free Trade Area means for Kenya. It means connecting 1.3 billion people across 55 countries. It will also create the largest free trade area, with a combined gross domestic product valued at US dollars 3.4 trillion. Emerging opportunities across economic sectors in Africa, ranging from power, utility, infrastructure, agriculture, and natural gas, those are emerging opportunities which can be exploited. The African continental free trade area will also offer a huge opportunity for UAE investors who will be able to do business on a single set of trade and investment rules across Africa continent. Dubai is well placed to benefit from the agreement due to its status as a preferred re-export hub for African traders and strong presence of UAE companies in Africa and vice versa. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic has far-reaching implications for international trade. Therefore, ensuring stability and continuity of a robust private sector will require continued contribution that will build and enhance growth, particularly during this difficult moment. The pandemic has created an opportunity to build more resilient business, and as quick as the effects of the pandemic have been, we have also seen solutions such as this event which we are now holding, which is a response to COVID-19 and to show how we can conduct business even amid difficult situations. As a government, we are committed to partner with you and support you in every way possible to ensure that your business continue to thrive. I wish you all well, and I wish you a successful a very successful conference. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. It is my honor to invite His Excellency Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, the Group Chairman and CEO of DP World.
Your Excellency, Dr. Ziyudi, Honorable Minister Maima, Mr. Lawrence, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to participate in Dubai Week in Africa. It's a pleasure to listen to Dr. Ziyudi and Mr. Maima's points and their vision for UAE and Africa. I've spoken many times about the need to deliver resilient trade between UAE and Africa. Kenya is very important for us. Kenya could be a gateway to Africa. Trade in our business is not just moving cargo. Trade unlocks economic growth, creates jobs, brings prosperity. With the pandemic, we've seen the importance of connectivity. The crisis has redefined trade and affected international investment. Supply chains are shifting. Reshoring is increasing. Traders, manufacturers want to be where the consumers are. Regional trade is more important than ever. COVID and low regional trade threaten years of African economic development. And during the pandemic, we learned how to deal with crises like that. More importantly than anything, the digital solutions were the answer. If you look at Africa trade, only 20% or less comes from intra-trade or comes basically from African borders to their neighbors, which is very low. And that stops growth and actually hinders trade. The African continental free trade area could make Africa the world's biggest free trade zone, worth 2.5 trillion by 2030. But Africa needs a lot and need to change and need to give a good image about their country. The most important for investment, and Africa needs a lot in infrastructure, is governance, rule of law. This is lacking in many African countries. However, many others are example of governance. And I cannot avoid mentioning a very sad incident that happened to DP World in Djibouti, where the government disregarded international law and seized illegally the port that we invested in, disregarding 5 judgments against them from the Court of London. These actions increase the cost of investment and make investment in Africa risky, even though it happened to us, that incident in 2017. We have not lost our interest in Africa. We invested and keep investing in countries that are more reliable. Cargo will be available. We have to expand the Rwanda airport many times. Also, we have launched the World Logistics Passport. His Highness Sheikh Ahmed bin Saeed launched it in Davos. And this loyalty program is really a facility to encourage more trade between countries by air. Today, air trade comes from the Far East to Europe, and from Europe it goes like a triangle to Africa and Latin America. And what we launched in Davos is a loyalty program whereby we try to encourage a straight line, which is the shortest between 2 distances, which means Far East, Dubai, Addis maybe, Ghana, or Dakar, straight to Latin America. This will reduce costs and will allow more trade to come. And basically, simply said, even Nairobi could become also part of it. Very simply is that if you are handling, for example, in Nairobi airport, 10,000 tons a year of cargo, you still can charge the same rate. However, if by becoming a member of the WLP or World Logistics Passport, you will need to give better incentives for the additional incremental cargo. So if you have another 5,000 could come to you to make it 15,000, the last 5,000 can be charged at a less rate, which encourage people to use it. This, we believe, will encourage more business to come by air. We call it South-South trade. And we know, and we have seen people who are members have actually benefited. In addition, also, probably you heard that DP World, we have signed an agreement with UNICEF to distribute for them 2 billion vaccines before the end of the year. This is a big task. And actually, distributing vaccines is going to be the biggest challenge to humanity since World War II, especially in areas where the communication is bad, where the transportation is bad. We have collaborated with Emirates Sky Cargo, with Emirates Airline, which has connectivity to everywhere. And Dubai Airport is really a big connector. And if you look at Dubai itself, and if you, basically we are 8 hours from 2/3 of the population of the world. So we're very excited to be partnering in this important task. We believe in Africa trade, we believe in the potential, and we look forward to partner with many regions and leaders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your remarks. For our next speaker, allow me to introduce His Excellency Engineer Saad Alawadi, who will deliver the speech on behalf of His Excellency Sami Al-Gimzi, the Director General at the Department of Economic Development.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you for the invitations, Excellencies, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and welcome to this landmark event, which starts Dubai Week in Africa. We are honored to be part of this week and to work with all partners, both in Dubai and in Kenya, to create opportunities for our respective business communities. Dubai Export is an agency of the Dubai Department of Economic Development, has carried out a number of exhibitions and trade missions in Kenya and Africa in over its 13 years history. The question is, why do we focus on the region? Well, the first answer is that our countries share excellent relationships from a business and commercial perspective. We very early on realized the huge potential of Africa, and in particular, the Eastern Coast. As we meet today, we do so knowing that the world has undergone a huge change with significant loss of human lives. The COVID-19 pandemic has also greatly impacted the economy from a macro level to consumers and daily wage earners, as governments have sought to place restrictions of movement of people to curtail the spread of the virus. We now have multiple vaccines to deal with the pandemic, and we look forward to the time when the entire world will have been protected. However, our experience of the global shock and local restrictions will change the way that we look at conducting business. We believe that technology-based connectivity will be at the heart of future business. Moreover, supply chain dynamics will change, where multiple sources of supply will be important, matched with consistent and regular transport links. Here, I would like to talk about how Dubai can be an important, reliable, multi-source supplier of inputs. Many of the businesses in Kenya and the region are aware of Dubai's ability to act as an effective and efficient re-export center, both through the traditional market in Deira and Bardubai and the automobile market, for example, in Awir, the Dragon Mart in Dubai, and so on. These markets are able to source products from across the world, to be from Asia, Europe, North America, and so on. Through their ability to tap into global markets, these traders are able to provide Kenyan buyers with diversity of products at the most reasonable prices. This was certainly the case when many supplier nations across the world imposed export bans, and I'm glad to state that this was not the case in Dubai. Further, the logistic connectivity between Dubai and Kenya has already been touched upon earlier, but I would like to reiterate this by stating that we have multiple air links per day via our national carriers with sea-based direct routes. We also have connectivity via DWIA for smaller or non-container based goods. In addition, we have been working with freight forwarders and partners so that buyers from Africa can pack their products over a period of time in designated areas and then ship it via Dubai. This increases the efficiency of logistics and makes Dubai a greater and highly profitable sourcing hub for Kenyan buyers. We believe that business is about creating mutually beneficial opportunities, and therefore have created venues whereby Kenyan companies can use Dubai to grow their businesses. Dubai stands at the door of a market of 2 billion people. We at Dubai Exports urge Kenyan businesses to use Dubai as their base to export from the Emirate to the regional market. Furthermore, once established in Dubai, the Kenyan companies will benefit from all the services that Dubai Export provide its members, many of which are free of cost. It is not only our regional markets that Kenyan companies can export to, but those further afield. In the pre-COVID period, we have seen how companies in Africa has been able to capitalize on the African Growth Opportunities Agreement, AGWA, to export products from the continent via Dubai to the USA. This has allowed exporters to increase the volume of trade that they conduct under the AGWA and the benefits that are derived. we believe that many similar opportunities exist for Kenyan businesses to capitalize on Dubai's connectivity and infrastructure. As I conclude, I would like to thank our organizers of Dubai Week in Africa, our partners in Dubai and Kenya. We look forward to a fruitful week of opportunities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it was with great pleasure that we present to you the launching of UAE Trade Center and the Kenya Export Promotion Center.
In December of 2019, the world was changed forever. COVID-19 has impacted the world and how we do business in extraordinary ways. But in 2020, UAE Trade Center was created, an Emirati-owned platform that will help UAE-based businesses penetrate the second biggest continent in the world, Africa. This platform is created to serve the people of the UAE and expose the world to the abundance of quality and innovation that can be found in every business in this beautiful country. The UAE Trade Center will introduce UAE companies to potential foreign importers seeking supply partners from the UAE. Today, we change the way Kenya does business forever. Introducing Kenya Export Promotion Center, Kenya's gateway to expanding to the UAE. This platform offers the same chance for Kenyan businesses to penetrate the UAE market and expand beyond their borders to gain market access in one of the fastest growing markets, the UAE. To share the beauty and diversity of Africa with the UAE and then the world. Today, we launch the UAE Trade Center and the Kenya Export Promotion Center. Join us and expand your business with ease.
For our next program, may I present to you Mr. Walid Harib Al-Falahi, the CEO of the UAE Trade Center.
Today, the Chamber has established a strategic partnership with the UAE Trade Center to promote trade and investment opportunities between the two countries and further enhance our bilateral relations. From this partnership, we have jointly organized the Dubai Week in Africa to discuss and share trade opportunities, exchange information, and provide additional support. During this event, we will have an opportunity to launch the Kenya Export Promotion Center that will provide opportunities to all traders and expand trade. So we welcome you to join us in this important event. Karibu.
No, it's Walid's turn.
I'm sorry for this. For our next program, may I present to you Mr. Walid Harib Al-Falahi, the CEO of the UAE Trade Center.
Mr. Walid, please unmute.
Sorry. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to extend my warm welcomes and regards to His Excellency Dr. Thani Azyudi for his support and encouragement. Also would like to extend our best appreciation to the Honorable Betty Mania, the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Industry and Trade, Enterprise Development, Government of Kenya. His Excellency PS Lawrence Karanja for his support, and also to extend also the support to His Excellency Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem and Engineer Saad for also the support that we got to execute this project. Dubai Week in Africa is not just an event, but it's a series of events that Dubai and the UAE is trying to bring together, to bring actually UAE and Africa together. Both countries and both markets actually have a lot of similarities, which actually benefit the growth in the two countries. UAE Trade Center is a dedicated initiative to support UAE companies in East Africa market via public-private partnership. It's the first export-assisted center for the UAE to support our companies overseas and to give access to markets and emerging market, starting with Kenya, but not limited to Kenya. We are expanding to Nigeria, we're expanding to Ethiopia, Senegal, different market where customer dictate these market entry for UAE company. The main objective is how to assist UAE companies to access the Kenya market, how to help also Kenyan in sourcing reliable product, and also plan to support and also what His Excellency just mentioned is part of the 2 trillion initiative that the government of Dubai is supporting and growing from there. In order to gain continuous support for Kenya, and in order to gain continuous support, the Kenyan government have been of a great assist to us, and they have gone and supported this initiative, either UAE Trade Center or even working with us also to develop the Kenyan Export Promotion Center in UAE. We are, you know, when it comes to trade, we always believe that you cannot just push your product without assisting the other countries. Kenya has a tremendous product that I think our market require, but also we have products that I think Kenya is actually of utmost need for it. And this already UAE is actually the second partner to Kenya. Therefore, we built a partnership with Kenya Chamber of Commerce in creating and supporting both concepts, creating UAE Trade Center in Kenya, but also supporting Kenya Export Promotion Center in UAE and vice versa. That's where I think relationship grow, and this is where relationship develop. We have linkages, we have partnership. We've been doing this together with Dubai Export and other partners for a while, but we felt that being in the market closer to our customers and working with our customers will be able to help UAE product. And the same thing with Kenya Export Promotion Center. It's a very strong initiative. It's an initiative that the Chamber of Commerce is pushing toward having Kenyan product in the market available to customers, which will allow and help build trade. This is the start. We seek your support. We seek your direction. We seek your, and hopefully this can work in supporting both countries and both customers in these markets to develop and to grow. And we are building on a long-term relationship that goes to hundreds of years between UAE and Kenya. I really appreciate your support and encouragement, and we look forward to fruitful relationship in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Walid. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now have a short break and we'll proceed with the panel discussion shortly.
extremely amazing. However, due to our limitations of time, I do not have the freedom or the ability to go through each one of them, but they're all available on the Dubai Week in Africa website. And I strongly urge you to look at the Dubai Week in Africa website. As we said, what has happened the last year has actually changed the way that we look at trade and the way we look at investment. My first question is to Richard. Richard, our data, or the data from the WTO and United Nations Committee on Trade and Development, shows that international trade fell in 2020. And that's not a surprise because the whole world was in a lockdown. But the question that we have is, how can we accelerate the reversal of this trend and develop resilient trading systems? Richard? Do we have Richard? No, it seems that we don't have Richard there.
Oh, thank you.
We do have Richard, sorry.
Yes. Sorry about that. Your Excellency, Dr. Thani, Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade, UAE, Cabinet Secretary Betty Maina, for Minister for Industrialization, Trade, Enterprise Development, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, panelists, thank you for joining us today. First, let me take this opportunity to thank the organizers and particularly Mr. Walid for organizing this very important event. And on behalf of the Kenyan private sector and business community, I want to underscore the timing of this program and partnership as collective efforts and common front to address the economic transformation post-COVID-19. Now, we need to look at the building resilient markets, and the crisis has yet again underscored the case for continued multilateral trade cooperation and for robust trading system to contribute to the post-crisis recovery. The pandemic has radically changed the demand for products and services in every sector, while exposing points of weakness and fragility in global supply chains and service networks. So today, many countries have now begun to resume economic activity, and this calls for global partnership and international trade that must be part of any recovery effort aimed at building a more fair and sustainable global economy. So moving forward, we need to enhance public-private dialogue for robustness and transparency in international supply chains and transparency in procurement processes as well. We need to build innovative value chain frameworks in different sectors using improved technology, higher quality inputs, and update market techniques as well. So not forgetting to improve production and trade by enhancing countries' productive, distributive and marketing capacities. So we need also to enhance workers' competencies to match the technology and production capacities of today and also of tomorrow to succeed in the global economy. So the setup dedicated supply chain risk management functions we need to look at, strengthen the ecosystems in which small businesses operate to protect them in the future, and then a sustainable share of economic stimulus package should be spent on sustainable solutions. So international dialogues and multilateralism are important to ensure recovery and resilience as we exist this crisis. So adoption of online and omnichannel delivery models and accelerating end-to-end digitization, address of reconfigure production lines to make in-demand production, finding global solutions to global problems, and also adapting route to market, finding new outlets such as direct-to-consumer sales or digital platforms when previous end markets are shut down or difficult then to access. So we as Kenya present several opportunities, and I'm happy that His Excellency Sultan Ahmed, Chairman of the DP World, say that in every country, you must observe governance. We, the private sector, we observe corporate governance as well. So we must develop, make sure there's development of industrial parks, special economic zones. We must look at the healthcare and manufacturing industries. We must look at textile and leather industries. We must also focus on automobile assembling initiatives, pharmaceutical manufacturing as well, and water and sanitation. And also make sure that we enhance labor service. And thank you to Dubai, because currently I think you have about 80,000 Kenyans, but you're looking to even to enhance that number. So we want to look at e-commerce and ICT as well, and technologies as well. Logistics and transport, fintech, which is very important. Our country, you have seen today, I think we are the leading in the world in terms of M-Pesa. We want to look at other innovative products on fintech, and tourism and horticulture as well. So county projects that we need to look at between the two countries. We want to look at Lamu, where UAE can benefit in the Lapset port logistics as well. We want to look at Kilifi and Taita Taveta, see how you can also benefit with halal beef. This is in livestock as well. In Kisumu, you need to invest in blue economy. We have the new port in Kisumu. Look at the also aquaculture. Look at the infrastructure development and logistics as well, and also mining, where we can focus in one of our counties, Kitui, and also in Turkana. So in the Great Lakes, private sector forum, this is 12 countries in Africa, where Kenya actually chairs. The regional private sector component is an important establishment in this pursuit of strong, sustainable, and inclusive economic growth. So the forum then supports regional economic development by promoting productivity and bringing down, these trade barriers to doing business, and also investing in human resource towards economic development. So I really, on behalf of this private sector forum, we remain committed to development of the sector, and we will continue to engage in all the stakeholders, and also looking at what, again, the Excellency Sultan said, that we need to look at the landlocked countries, how we can be able to support them, and how we can be able to benefit in making sure that products reach out to these countries in real time. Thank you.
Thank you. That was amazing. A wonderful set of initiatives and ideas. And I've actually been working with Kenyan entrepreneurs in the creative industries and fintech. And I can honestly tell you they're dynamic. They really are absolutely dynamic. And later in the week, this is a bit of a spoiler alert, but later in the week, we'll actually be talking about fintech and Islamic fintech, and also about halal sectors, bearing in mind that over half the countries in Africa are actually members of the Organization of Islamic Countries. But I'd like to pick on one of the points that you mentioned there, Richard, the idea about delivery channels and route to market. I think this is very, very important, especially in the post-pandemic environment. And here I'd like to move to Jaswinder. Jaswinder, from a private sector or from an organization that works with the private sector, have you seen any change in the demand for services and the support that the exporting community in Kenya requires in the post-COVID period? And if so, what have they been, and how are you looking to support them in the future? Jaswinder?
Thank you very much. And I think your question is very apt. The beginning of the pandemic last year, we actually thought that Kenya is actually going to lose out their export revenue to the tune of 20 to 25%, because obviously a lot of our exports are to Europe, and a lot of them are fresh produce, like horticulture, floriculture, and there were no flights that were leaving Kenya. As you know, with the lockdown in Europe, we had impacts on our apparel industry with the lockdowns in the US as well. So we were actually looking at large reduction on our export book. But we are pleasantly shocked now that we're looking back retrospective in 2020. We're pleasantly shocked that we didn't lose any export revenue. We lost in certain sectors, but we gained in certain sectors. Overall, our exports last year went up by 6%. And we were thinking it's going to be minus 20%. What did go down is our imports. Our input from $16 billion went down to about $14 billion, but our revenue, export revenue, remained just above $6 billion. So we were pleasantly shocked. I think a lot of it to do with tea, and I guess a lot of people are sitting at home, they're drinking a lot of tea. That helps as well. But by and large, we are diversifying our export basket. We are trying to expand our export basket and trying to diversify our export markets so that we don't get hit into any type of issue where our traditional markets are going to have trouble and that our export markets get hit. So we are really excited at this point in time that we have this new opportunity under the Continental Free Trade Agreement in Africa. 54 African countries have signed up. Yes, it was supposed to be operationalized on 1st of July 2020. It was delayed by 6 months. So now that it's been operationalized and the phase down has already begun, certain items are already making their way across the continent. What's really lacking in, I think, it was meant by the previous speaker, keynote speaker, that Africa lacks infrastructure. And in that lack of that big infrastructure gap and void, Africa doesn't trade with Africa. Africa's trade within Africa is about, intra-Africa trade is only 15%. We want to grow that, and very quickly, as you can see, the large infrastructure development that Kenya is doing, we would like to see that we can actually be that gateway to the continent of Africa. And there's a huge market opportunity at our doorstep. It's over 1.2 billion people. It's $2.5 trillion market. So we are looking at diversifying. 60% of our current export book lies within the continent. So we'd like to expand that. And of course, partner with the UAE and be based in Dubai and also serve as a GCC market, which is a big marketplace. And we were there. We did a market observation in December, and I will be sending a team for the Gulf food as well to come and have a look. But by and large, as we come into Dubai 2020 in October this year and will be present for 6 months, I think that will be the game changer for us when we really start looking at making our base. And with the Kenya Export Promotion Trade Center that's being built, being inaugurated in Dubai, we're very excited about the opportunity that this partnership is going to bring. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Jaswinder. And I can assure you that looking at the week coming up to yesterday, there were a lot of horticultural products from Kenya. All the shops were full of Kenyan roses. And from here, sure. And from here, they actually went to Europe. And because one of the things I actually do is look at trade data. So I was actually quite amazed in preparation for today to see that how much horticultural actually goes through Kenya, through Dubai, to European markets. And I believe that there were about 8 million roses or stems of roses that went. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Valentine's weekend, that's our biggest market day.
Yes. I mean, moving away slightly from trade to investment, Fahad, I'd like to ask you, the COVID-19 pandemic has certainly impacted global FDI, but we believe it's temporary. But on a longer term, what do you see the changes in terms of sectors and types of investment? Fahad? We have Fahad there?
Yes, good morning, everyone. And good afternoon. I think 1 minute past here in Dubai. So, yes, I think, first of all, thank you for having me here with you. Looking at the impact of COVID on FDI, it will not be solely on capital flows if we will look at it, and also on green field projects. We think this will be more on, or will have a profound impact on how the investors are taking the strategic global expansion decisions. As it was also earlier mentioned, the pre-COVID was clear that there is a slow but clear and growing trend that investment is no longer about risk and return as we know it. And also I believe that the future of FDI is at the nexus of risk return plus impact. There will be a new efficiency, resilience, economic impact nexus at a play that we will see in the next years coming. It's not only the plus and minus as we know, there is that impact that we all need to look at, especially in the next few years. We know the impact has to have a more thumb on the social impact. We lost a lot of jobs globally, and investment need to create or recreate jobs that was lost, and then the normal creation of jobs that are been part of the equation of investment. It will also be the impact that on how investment promotion agencies like us and the others around the world are organized to deliver their value to investors. And at the same time, if we will look into that, we look at changes in terms of sectors and type of investment, which is largely, right now, it's context-based. For cities, countries, and regions, that has some unique advantages, and moving forward, and also, I hope there will be more focus on the location strengths and the readiness to attract the FDI that is trying to be everything to everyone. I think that we have to look into that. There are so many new areas of that is developing for IPAs and investment overall. But I think there are, many opportunities as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Fahad. And you're certainly right. I mean, investment is very much context-based. And we need to move away from the risk-reward scenario to impact-based investing, especially as we move towards the Social Development Goals 2030, the United Nations Social Development Goals. And I think this is where the change is taking place. But for me personally, I like the idea of trade. I like the idea of investment. And the third part of this nexus is logistics. Abdullah, as we move to you and your role in DP World, do you believe that as companies redesign their post-COVID operations and supply chains, they will seek to protect their business against a wider and more acute range of potential shocks and disruptive events? If so, what will be their approach, and how can DP World support them in this endeavor? Abdullah?
Sure. Thank you, Ashraf, and good afternoon to everyone. First of all, Ashraf, I would like to thank Walid and his team, DWIA Consultants, for this great forum, the virtual forum, at these challenging times, which brings us together to basically communicate and look for opportunities. Go back to your question, very valid question. The pandemic, as you know, has definitely changed the way of people, how they're doing business and the companies. These change in consumer behavior has definitely put a lot of pressure on the logistics sector. Therefore, you will see that a lot of companies have been trying to redesign their operation, not only to sustain the business, but also to be competitive in their offering in the same time. If you look at DP World, for us, this is something is not new. We have been investing in initiatives and technology for more than 3 decades now. And definitely this have really paid off during these very difficult times, during the COVID crisis. If you look at Jebel Ali, we have been operating without any disruption. So with the pandemic, we have definitely accelerated the speed of our investment in enhancing our logistics capabilities, whether technologically or efficiencies. And going forward, our focus is to position ourselves not as an operator, but we like to think of ourselves as a trade enabler, in order to support our customers and our partners in their entire supply chain by connecting, like you heard of our chairman, our assets globally or even regionally. This definitely can be achieved through our initiative, like the Hyperloop or Box Bay, if you have read about it, which will help us to optimize speed and efficiency in the way we operate. And another way, also looking at it, since we're speaking about our close regions, short haulage service to our customers through our recent acquisition of services and the maritime services. So, Ashraf, going back, I don't believe there is something called one fit for all in our industry. Each businesses that we see has its own unique requirement, be it from sourcing raw materials or the way the company operates, or even the way they connect with their customer, and many more. One thing I would like to emphasize here, again, our focus in the past and going forward is Africa. And I really strongly believe, as my chairman have mentioned, we can link both gateways between Jebel Ali and Kenya in future in order to bring additional value to East Africa countries and Sub-Sahara.
Thank you, Abdullah. And I totally agree with you that there is no such thing called one size fits all. It cannot be. We live in a world where we want things A, immediately, and B, we want them tailor-made to us, right? Now, taking this idea about logistics to a next level, Mohsen, do you feel that an important lesson from the COVID-19 experience has been that the realization that supply chain participants need to collaborate more? We need to work more on a level of partnership, both from a vertical perspective and a horizontal perspective, so that industry is able to deliver substantial benefits for participants. And Mohsen, again, in doing so, how do we move away from these corporate silos to more strategic partnerships? Mohsen, do we have Mohsen there?
Yes, Dr. Ashraf. Good afternoon, everybody. And again, I would like to, pass my thanks to the organizers of the event and giving us the opportunity. It's funny you mentioned collaboration. I think one of the interesting thing that they teach you academically when it comes to supply chain, first thing they teach you, if you want to do supply chain, you got to do collaboration. Now, I think giving the sort of the current pandemic that we're facing, it just reiterates that sort of emphasis is that collaboration is the key. I think we take this notion of transferring organization from I shape to a T shape, where people can extend their arms across the supply chain as opposed to just focusing on their own little entities. But I think what the pandemic did, it enabled, it allowed people to explore new ideas, new sort of collaboration, different ways of doing the business, and looking at how they can partner with each other as opposed to sort of taking advantage of the different sort of either upwards or upwards or downwards when it comes to the vertical. But also what people realized, I think, during the pandemic is you got to look at sort of the risk factor there's a notion of that we want to hold the minimum inventory across the supply chain. Now, I think the time has come is like, which do you hold the key or sort of things that could reduce your risk? We in the academic world, they call it the safety stocks and all that. But I think here what we're looking at is where is the risk assessment when it comes to supply chain? It was shrunk very thin because everything was perfect. Your aircraft was taking off on these days. Your vessels were more or less, sailing on certain schedule. But with this pandemic, people realized how vulnerable a lot of the supply chain was. I think collaboration will be sort of the key. Information sharing between the supply chain will be sort of very important for going forward. And I think using this platform where we have countries, ministers, and decision makers at countries when it enables trade, more and more, even I think country levels of collaboration could enhance across the entire different supply chain. Because Africa, as you mentioned, we just came across Valentine. A lot of those roses were flown out, but I'm sure we also had to supply quite a lot of the mobile phones and the electronics out of Dubai to Africa for the gifts. So it goes both ways.
That's certainly true, Mohsen, yes. I mean, trade is always both ways. Yeah. You give a Valentine rose and you have to give a mobile phone at the same time. That's life. But let's take this conversation round. Abdurrahman, we have seen from the Kenyan perspective from Jaswinder, where he talked about how trade and the support that export promotion agents provide has changed as a result of the COVID-19. From a Dubai perspective, have you seen any change in the demand for the service and the support from the exporting community? Bearing in mind that you represent the bulk of the SMEs. Abdurrahman?
Thank you, Doctor. I think what you have highlighted is true. In fact, we realized at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic that the businesses is facing many obstacles that affected their trade activities. Therefore, we've conducted a number of webinars, surveys to understand their problems and needs. This allowed us to be engaged with our exporters to ensure that despite the lockdown, they will be able to conduct businesses. We also foresaw the impact of the digital trade and encouraged our exporting community to move to B2B e-commerce and utilize our sophisticated platforms such as the Exporter Gateway. It's the platform that provides access to more than 20,000 verified buyers in 40 international markets segregated across 13 sectors. In addition to the international statistics and market information, as well as the international tenders. Moreover, and through our continuous interaction with the business community, we've developed a new service called Revival Program. It's a program that develops a complete business plan orchestrated with collaboration from the overseas trade offices, the strategic partnership, and our main head office to provide them with hand-in-hand, step-by-step, how to execute or how to find the right partners, conduct virtual B2B, and conclude a deal, hopefully, at the end of this activity. Furthermore, we have touched base also on domestic obstacles that affected the export process in collaboration with other governmental entities. This action allowed us to help more than 96 companies who were facing issues with exporting their products internationally. Also, we've managed to provide our exporters and manufacturers a new sourcing opportunity with raw materials that they were facing difficulties to obtain due to the pandemic through our overseas trade offices and the strategic partners. From the promotional perspective, we've managed to conduct a number of virtual exhibitions and trade missions that facilitated business activities to our exporters. In fact, today's event is a testament of how business community across different geographies has come together on a virtual platform. We believe that this will continue and virtual exhibitions and trade missions will continue to be a regular feature. This will make trade inclusive, as smaller companies that could not participate in exhibitions can now do so on a virtual platform.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Abdurrahman. And certainly, I think, as I've always said, the whole idea behind the future will always be a virtual platform moving to a digital way of doing business. And this brings me back to Richard. You mentioned a number of very, very important aspects, which I think are very, very important. But what can be done to protect and strengthen the entrepreneurial ecosystem in which small businesses operate, to protect them and make them able to capitalize on global opportunities? Richard? Do we have Richard there?
There you go. Yes.
Okay. Wonderful.
So, all right. Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, let me just go back to the question you asked earlier on terms of delivery channels and routing markets and what alternatives we may have. In my view, I think we need to, to develop very innovative ways, to trade. And therefore, in this regard, we need to look at technology, and that is, for example, e-commerce that most panelists have also spoken about. We need to see how we can be able to support that. Secondly, in terms of rerouting to markets, we need to create trade partnerships, which is very important. We also need to create trade hubs. And I believe this is the essence of having also this meeting, so that we can see how we can have hubs here in Kenya and also in Dubai that will be able to support SMEs as we trade. So, but we feel that there's certain challenges that SMEs are facing today. And of course, after this pandemic, one is the cost of doing business, which has become extremely high, and also limited information regarding external markets. So that is something that we need to collaborate and work together to make sure that SMEs get the right information, get the right, get the right opportunities and markets at the right time. Travel limitations has also been another setback for investors and also exporters. So we need to think around it, how best we can be able now to trade, because even today we want to come to Dubai. Sometimes there are a bit of limitations. Supply chain disruption has also been a key leading market failure. So we need to look at those areas. So protection of policies as well in some of the countries need to be looked into. So those are areas that really we need to focus and see how we can be able to engage as well. In terms of SMEs, again, like I said, information and access to opportunities. That again is something we need to look at, and technology as well, and building capacities, skills transfers as well. Change of government policies, again, that is something we must look at. So innovation and trade products for international markets, I think, is something we need to look at.
Wonderful. I mean, you said two things which I think are very, very important. A, technology, and B, the skill. I'd like to just go back on those 2 points. See, and also bring in the idea of this fourth industrial revolution. See, the advent of the fourth industrial revolution has already highlighted the importance of skilling and reskilling. These demands have now changed and increased due to COVID. So what can organizations such as yours do to support the SMEs in this regard? And this was actually a question also that we had from the audience. Richard?
In terms of supporting SMEs and supporting them in capacity building, one is you see, to make sure that we collect information across the globe. We collect information, and we put our people together to make sure that we capacity build them. We also get, we get partnerships also who can be able to support us in, supporting them, one, in financial literacy. That is one key area as you look at opportunities also and markets. So I think financial literacy, bookkeepings, that is very important when it comes to support the SMEs, and transfer of skills as well.
Excellent. I mean, that's certainly true. I'd like to just take the conversation to Jaswinder, and then from a private sector. Jaswinder, one of the changes that we have seen even before COVID-19, and this is something that Richard has also touched upon, as well as other panelists, is this move towards digital trade, especially amongst the young. And the work that I've done in Kenya with creative industries shows me that they're extremely talented and have a wealth of experience. Do you feel that the COVID-19 pandemic has incentivized and increased perhaps a faster adoption of what I call trade tech? That's technology related to trade, solutions across local and global trading systems? If so, what are some of the examples from a Kenyan perspective?
Well, thank you for that question. I think it's a great question. And yes, as you know, Kenya was the first country when it came to M-Pesa and mobile money in the world. It was discovered in Kenya. We are very, very proud of that. And yes, our young generation, our young people that work in Kenya are all very, very digitally savvy. So the question being that, how do we see it? We see a leapfrog. We see Kenya leapfrogging in the digital world. We've seen the COVID-19 has actually accelerated the way we are doing business. I mean, this Zoom call and this conference is just a testimony to what we are doing as a society. In the past, this would have been a physical meeting. Now it's a virtual meeting. And we see that happening. We are seeing that in our retail space, and we are seeing that retailing is moving to e-tailing. So you're buying everything off your phone or your computer, but you're not even physically visiting a store. And that metamorphosis is going on very, very strong globally. And Kenya is not spared. In fact, I think we are actually much more innovative. And I've used this in the past as well, that, we've been buying, our grandmothers have been buying potatoes in the villages for the last 5 years or 2 years with M-Pesa. There was no need for us to go home every weekend to give them money, because we would send money from Nairobi to the village and tell them, listen, go and do your business. And they would buy 2 kilos of potatoes and 1 kilo of onions on mobile phone. It's just that we're now going to embrace it a lot more. We know that the whole world is changing, and we know that the digital divide is going to narrow so quickly. And we can see the numbers, and the numbers don't lie. And the amount of transactions that M-Pesa is doing on a daily basis is astronomical. And we've seen during the COVID pandemic, our government raised the limit of M-Pesa transactions daily. It was 70,000 shillings. It was moved to almost 250,000 shillings. So we've seen that huge, and also the telephone company responded very positive during the COVID period. The transaction cost was put to almost zero for the low income, less than 1,000 shillings. So yes, we are here to embrace the technological advancements that Kenya and the rest of the world is doing. And we definitely see that, yes, retailing is going to be a thing of the past. And yes, the big malls will be turned probably into recreational activities, but retailing will definitely quickly move to e-tailing. And that's what we're looking forward to.
One of the problems I foresee in this whole idea behind trade is this last mile issue. The issue that you have the border guy, right? And the trade facilitation, right? So how do you overcome this? Now, one of the things I want to go back to is you mentioned the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which for me personally, and by the way, I love Africa. This is the most amazing game changer, right? How can this, with digital trade, create more robust and more resilient markets?
Well, you see what is happening on the last mile in Kenya. What we've seen is we've seen a huge job creation on that last mile. And that job creation was created by border borders. We call them border borders. It's a guy with a motorbike, and he comes and picks your stuff. You can do your shopping through him, send him to a supermarket, and yes, he will. And the apps that are coming out like Glovo and these other apps. So there are applications, and we're also seeing applications on last mile in terms of trucking. We are seeing an Uber-like solution now available to truck your cargo from Mombasa to Nairobi and vice versa. So yes, I think innovation will drive that last mile. And once you have an app on your phone telling you that this truck is roaming around here, wanting to take cargo from A to B, and yes, if you can engage that Uber-like solution, and we are seeing, besides Uber, we are seeing in Dubai, you have Kareem, but here we have, in a town that I live, it's called Vasili, and there's so many Uber-like solutions now available. So we are seeing that last mile connect will happen, and the marketplace will force that last mile connect to happen. So we're very confident that we will not see a void. As long as the infrastructure is on the ground, as long as there's the road, there will be a car or a vehicle or a motorbike or a bicycle that will make onto that road.
And of course, the mobile app reduces the cost because you don't go back empty. If you're going to Kisumu and you've got a mobile phone, you can get a ride back or luggage back to go back to Mombasa. And that brings down the cost, increases more trade. But my question is slightly, the second part of the question is more about the African Continental Agreement. How can that support more resilient markets?
Well, you see, with the biggest problem in Africa and trade in Africa has been the border posts. And really, unfortunately, as we subscribe, we've been running COMESA in 16 African countries for many, many years. And yes, there is no tariff, but in the COMESA countries, the largest trade is actually being done with Kenya and Egypt under COMESA. But there are some of the other countries who are COMESA member states. They don't really subscribe fully or commit fully that yes, the borders can be open, because they're still looking at customs as a revenue stream. So they need to move away from the revenue driven from customs to a value-added revenue, which is consumption tax, almost similar to what you have in Dubai, a value-added tax, VAT. So we need to move away from import tax to consumption tax. And when that paradigm kicks in, you'll actually see your revenue on consumption is far greater than blocking imports into your country. But I think the Continental Free Trade Agreement is cognizant of that fact. And that's why this duty-free imports within the territory is going to remain. Domestic taxes will continue to play a role. But I think it's only a matter of time. And because we are connecting the continent with digitally, it's going to be easier, quicker. Blockchain is going to happen and it's going to help, because if blockchain can be used as a means to move cargo from one country to another, you can actually see that a checkpoint or a stoppage in that supply chain is a place where somebody is looking for facilitation, which we're not going to allow. Blockchain will not allow that. It will just show that, yes, it got stuck by this institution on this border post or in this town. So straight away questions will be asked, and I think actually reduce the checkpoints, as I would call them, of trade and enhance trade.
I mean, that's certainly true. I mean, we see that now because a lot of the logistics providers that we work with, you can track the movement on your mobile app. I'd like to keep with the idea of digital trade. Fahad, one cannot ignore the global power of digital trade, especially amongst the tech-savvy millennials. You know, old people like me with white hair, we're not very good with the mobile phone, but young people obviously are. And they will continue to be a major purchasing force. Do you believe that this will lead to an increase in investment from e-commerce and logistics sector? And what is Dubai FDI doing to attract more tech-savvy FDI into Dubai and the UAE? Fahad?
Yes, Dr. Ashraf. I think we have, before we do that, we have to differentiate between, you know, the investors themselves. Investment in logistics and e-commerce infrastructure is different and is another ballgame than investment in creating e-commerce platforms. These are two different elements where investment are in different leagues, if we say. If we will look at that, Dubai has shown through this period of global, you know, uncertainties that it follows a clear vision. Set here the right priorities to serve the business communities and grow and expand their aims to a better future, and at the same time shared prosperity. You know, so you earn investors' confidence here regardless of, you know, global sentiment. This is very important for investors to see that. At the same time, looking at what we have done lately, or in the last 1 year at least, we organized a series of many global Dubai Advantage webinar series with some Dubai government entities and even Free Zone and some of the colleagues here who are with us in 25 countries with focus on key investment opportunities in the healthcare and food, technology and logistics sectors. Dubai FDI also has dedicated data and information portal to serve investors' need around the clock, like Dubai FDI Monitor, which was providing on daily basis all the new government different, you know, incentives packages that came from the Dubai government and the also the federal government. And despite the global decline on FDI flows, Dubai has maintained its overall ranking among the top 5 FDI global destination capital flows and in greenfield projects in 2020. A few days ago, I would like to share with you that Dubai came 3rd after London and Singapore on FDI Global Cities of Future on 2021-2022 ranking. And this is something very significant for us to look at.
First, congratulations on your ranking. I think that's an amazing achievement. But also, I'm led to believe, Fahad, that Africa's largest online portal, Jamia, is actually based, I think I'm mispronouncing that, but the African version of Souk or Noon or Amazon is actually based in Dubai. The headquarters is in Dubai. That's another wonderful achievement by you and your team to have that. But let's go along with the idea of this service-based investment. Do you feel that this will be a space that the type of investments will move away from, because we've seen a lot of investment in physical assets, in real estate, and we'll move this away to investment where we reposition our physical assets. So we take a building and reposition it into a leisure facility. And this is where future investment in Dubai will be. I'm talking about inward investment.
Let me differ here with something. Yes, we are going into the digital transformation of many parts of our lives, our businesses, and many other areas. But we will still be human. We will still need to go physically and see a place physically and meet physically. You don't know how much of frustration people have right now. I'm not saying this for the meeting we're having, but there's a lot of meetings happening online. And people, and especially in our case, an investment, for you to gain an investor confidence, you have to sit in front of him. If I'm an investor and I would like to invest somewhere, I need to see those people that I'm investing with them or in their location or in their organization or in their company. That confidence is built on trust, and trust is happening through that one-on-one, relationship. I'm not overruling everything, but there are certain things that will continue to be with us. We are not going into a full, everything. Certain things will change for a better, business judgment. If I'm saving more money here and it works, I will save it. But if it doesn't work, I have to go back. Real estate will continue to be there. It will change, but it will continue to be there. So if we will look and take back this to Dubai, are we going to settle in homes or are we going to settle in somewhere other places? Definitely, we will need real estate to be with us for our homes. Maybe less for, in certain cases, for our meetings, but it will continue to be there. Dubai today is among the leading cities in FDI attraction into services and hospitality sectors. And the global growth outlook is positive on long term, despite the current crisis. If we look at it also, it is important, though, to understand that the full impact of COVID crisis is yet also to be recognized and seen fully, because on many industries and economic sectors, still some information are coming to us day by day or week by week. The changes driven by shift in consumer behavior are clear, as I mentioned, and accelerated the adoption of digital services and online shopping. Dubai's leadership in digital economy has transformed us, the way we live, the way we work for many years, and into a few days, we saw it. And it is clearly felt on how the public and the private sector respond quickly to and efficiently to COVID restrictions and lockdown last year, and we're seeing some happening right now. Dubai city's readiness and public trust in government are two important factors in both investors' decisions and consumer confidence. We have to keep certain things with that makes a direct connection with people, with human. We will use the technology for the best of cutting costs, for the best of efficiency, but we will still meet, and I would love to meet everyone that I'm here, some friends that we didn't meet for many times, even a year, but I'd love to meet them. these type of tools are with us. We use them the way we want, or sometimes we disregard them when we don't see them working. That's the nature of everything. And I think a mixed bag will be always there with us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, because you can't devolve the personal touch. The personal touch has to be there, whatever we do. Now, I want to go on to the third part of this nexus, which is the logistics. Abdullah, I remember being at the WTO ministerial meeting in Argentina in 2017, where the trade facilitation agreement was being negotiated. Thankfully, this has become a distant memory, as I think all the countries have signed. And here I'd like to point out that the UAE was the first country in the region to sign. However, I believe that it was critical for the start of the increased uptake of digital transformation of global trade. Do you believe that the COVID-19 pandemic has increased the need for digital technologies that can be at the core of developing resilient global markets? Further, how can organizations such as yours better meet the needs of their customers in improving two things which I think are very important? A, agility, and B, responsiveness. Abdullah?
Thank you, Ashraf. And to go back to your question, I think the pandemic definitely gave us the awareness that the global supply chain are exposed to disruption. This may last for a month, or like we have seen with this pandemic, over a year for now. But it does not mean, Ashraf, that the pandemic is the cause for digital transformation. Digitalization was always there, but the pandemic have definitely put pressure on a lot of companies to basically focus on automation and the emphasis of the safety of their people, as we have seen in this pandemic. And I would like to reiterate again that for us as a DP World, this journey in digitalization have been there for a decade ago. If you look at DP World, we were the first in the region here in Jebel Ali to basically develop an EDI shipping solution in the late 90s. And today we are proud that we have a full-fledged digital solution through our single window, which is called Dubai Trade. It is a platform which basically bring all the supply enablers on all the stakeholders as well, and be able to do all the transaction online in a very secure and real-time basis. And this has really came handy during these very challenging time. And what we have seen and what we have experimented similar solution, we want to take it to our other terminals where we operate and bring additional value to the existing of the services that we provide and we offer. And I strongly believe that Kenya can take advantage of DP World, where we can bring in a value combined with our offer together on a seamless movement of cargo between the two countries as two major gateways in this region. And as a trade enabler, we want to bring the best experience to our customers and our partner wherever we are in the world through these technologies and these initiatives that we bring, which will bring an additional value and offering to their customers and to their countries and neighbors.
Thank you, Abdullah. But before I do a follow-on question, I've just been told by the organizers that we have 1,112 people watching us. 1,112. I mean, that just shows A, the power of the organizers, and B, the relevance of this topic to people both in Kenya and also here. I think that's really amazing. And one of the questions we have had from the audience, and please, we are taking questions from the audience. The technical team will actually giving me the questions. But one of the questions we've had, Abdullah, and this is more towards DP World, is that, do you believe that we are moving to an era marked by emphasis on cost efficiencies rather than an emphasis on resilience? Or do you think it's both? Do you think it's about resilience and cost efficiencies? And here I'd also like to reiterate what your chairman, Sultan bin Salem, said about the World Logistics Passport, how that is also a loyalty program, and the fact that we are looking at how to reduce costs and create a seamless flow of trade.
I mean, definitely today we have seen how the pandemic have really challenged the way we do things. There is definitely a challenge in the supply and sourcing of goods from key region that we have seen when we went into lockdown. When we speak about Dubai and how we function in normal, our ports were working in 24/7. In fact, our volume much better and as usual. Using the technology, using the experiment that we have here in Dubai, definitely brought us in terms of the cost and saving costs, saving time, and definitely leveraging from the resources that we have here. So a positive thing that every distribution has created a new opportunity and have made the world more strong and more resilient, Ashraf.
Wonderful. I mean, you're certainly correct. I mean, you have to look at cost and you have to have a balance between cost and resilience. But the common theme, and here I'd like to ask Mohsen, because the common theme here has been that technology has been a driver. Yes, we are right. The initiation started before COVID. So Mohsen, I'd like to ask you, I think the next disruption in global supply chain is technology in its many different forms. We've already got 5G technology across the world. I was talking to Jaswinder about artificial intelligence becoming important. We have seen the Internet of Things already established. And there are 2 universities working on 6G. And I believe that 6G is due to be launched in 2028. So Mohsen, how do you see the logistics sector adapting to these changes? Because as we have technology, the whole value game in logistics changes. Mohsen?
I think just to reiterate a lot of things that Abdullah has mentioned earlier, technology played a big major role in logistics. And I think if you look at the sort of the amount of shipments and goods that travel, there's no way that some of this stuff could be managed manually, especially when you come to the subject that you reiterated about last mile. Last mile, it's very sophisticated. The volume is huge, and the volume will increase further and further. And the reason is today, if you look at sort of e-commerce pre-pandemic in Dubai was about 4% of the value of the trade when it came. But when you looked at also the countries like China, you looked at about 14-16%. Now, I think with post-pandemic, most of the countries will not see any more, maybe few because of the infrastructure might be in sort of the single digit. A lot of them will move into sort of double-digit figures, which means more shipments will be delivered. That means more focus on the technology and more intelligence algorithm. I think if you look at sort of any of the marketplaces, they're very much sort of IT driven. Yes, with IT, and I think it's a mutation of IT and supply chain that came into, and then we have these companies called Amazon and Noon and Juma and the rest of them there. Now, going forward, I think technology, you're looking at about, I mean, certain reports are saying about $1.9 trillion we're going to be spending in the logistics sector just on technology. That just shows how important it is. You've got companies in the logistics sector that maybe about 30% of their or capex they put into technology, or sort of even sometimes even a lot of their opex are spent on technology. It is very important for the people. I think what will distinguish going forward for any logistics player is how well their IT platform is. It's no longer, like you mentioned earlier, it's no longer the physical. The physical domain of sort of the warehousing is a given. There are certain things that, yes, we're going to get to some more efficient materials, more sustainable materials to come in, but I think it's the technology that will make company A to be superior towards company B. And today, when we have the market of this pandemic, we realize how important it was, how robust now the thing is, it just showed emphasize the efficiency. But if we go to Dubai, for example, the strategy for e-commerce in Dubai came out in September 2019. This is at least 6 months before the sort of the pandemic in UAE, or maybe about sort of 4 months before it hit the Chinese market. So the direction was very much set way before the pandemic. What the pandemic did is brought things a lot quicker, and it brought people to come and collaborate. I think it's just worth mentioning how when it comes to collaboration that you mentioned earlier, was where the Carrefour, and we have the fellows from the Dubai Economics Department, the DED, and RMX, and the Dubai Taxis, they came together as 4 entities to ensure that the last mile were delivered in a very efficient and still the people's orders were fulfilled. Now that came on an ad hoc basis, but if it wasn't for the technology that all these sort of entities had invested in earlier, they wouldn't be able to do that. They wouldn't be able to do, you had the taxi driver delivering your groceries, and that was a change, and it brought in sort of the taxi guys were sitting idle. How did we utilize that asset, and how did it become a sort of more efficient? So it is quite an important. But I think in infrastructure, countries are investing a lot more in infrastructure. I think with the recent one is the Starlink from Elon Musk is getting internet. So the moment you're not getting internet in a very rural areas, then you better get started to deliver to those rural areas too.
And that's actually a very, very important point, because once you have something, you demand more of it, right?
Yeah, that's human nature.
It is human nature. And I think this is the whole idea. And the other thing about the internet and technology is that if one country has it, information is so instantaneous, everybody has it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean,
in the logistics sector?
Yeah, it is. I think it is in the logistics sector. Once, in the past, it was a luxury if you had a last mile guy had a tracking system. Now it's no more a luxury, it's a need. The customers want not only to know that you're going to deliver at this. Now people are saying, okay, which time slot you're going to deliver, which location you're going to, this is becoming more and more important. It's both for the person receiving and for the company that's operating to ensure efficiencies. I think this is where it is quite important that information, the sort of live information is shared. But we're also seeing very creative ways of doing it. I think Jaswinder mentioned earlier about the way that some of the companies are doing it, and it's quite true. The people are creative, and I think that's the nature of human being, that we do adapt to situations, and we have God has created, blessed us with a brain that's quite creative in creating solutions.
Wonderful, but I'd like to go back to one of the things you said in your first opening. You talked about the classroom and how we were taught, and have actually taught the idea that you have just in case safety stocks, right? And then we moved to this whole idea about just in time became the big thing. Are we going back now to just in case?
Well, if you look at the notion of just in time, it came from a pure manufacturing. The car industry, the automobile, they wanted just in time, and I think the flagship was the Kaizen, sort of the Toyota model. That's great, it works, but reality, you never had really just in time. It's the theory, it works perfect, but when it came to practicality, you didn't want to have a production line stop because you didn't have a bolt to hatch on the doors. I think there were still some stocks somewhere in there, and that was to take into just in case, which you refer to. So yes, it's good to reduce it, but I think but it's still exciting. But I think what's coming in right now is more of global, we had this global hub of supply chain. No, I think it's going to be now more of a regional hub where you're going to have with a few satellite. It's a hub and spoke, the old hub and sort of model. It's coming back. People will be closer to the region, and I think they're going to be more. You're going to see probably more in the sort of the company's board, the executive boards that they're going to be discussing the supply chain risk associated. That was almost forgotten because the whole network of transportation became very efficient. But then with the pandemic, people realized, no, maybe we should have that one in sort of back pocket. God forbid, if anything happens, there is a way to tap into it and come up with a solution.
Yes, I mean, you're totally right. I mean, things always change. Abdul Rahman, do you believe that the new normal will change the emphasis of the target sectors, especially for an emirate such as Dubai and the areas that it's been focusing on, and look at more sectors that such as advanced manufacturing? Abdul Rahman?
Well, certainly, Doctor. We have already seen that some sectors have gained considerable importance. In the case of UAE and Dubai, we have seen greater importance in pharmaceuticals and personal hygienic products. In fact, there are a number of companies and manufacturers who diversified their production and introduced new production lines to cope up with this change. This is part of a wider plan to ensure self-efficiency in strategic sectors. Further, we have placed a greater emphasis on manufacturing, and at Dubai Exports, we are leading the Dubai Industrial Strategy. The strategy aims to increase the total output and value addition of the manufacturing sector, enhance the depth of knowledge and innovation, make Dubai a preferred manufacturing platform for global businesses, promote environmentally friendly and energy efficient manufacturing, and make Dubai a center of the global Islamic product markets. The strategy has further identified 6 priority subsectors: aerospace, maritime, aluminum and fabricated materials, pharmaceuticals and medical equipment, food and beverage, and machinery and equipment. We also see a greater focus towards creative industries, which is a diverse area and appeals to younger entrepreneurs.
Thank you very much. I actually wanted to go on a lot more. I apologize to all the speakers because I've just received a message from the organizers to do two things. Firstly, can all the panelists please keep their cameras on? I believe they're going to have a group photo. And the second one is that they've told me that I'm talking too much and I should stop talking.
As usual, Doctor.
Idea from. I don't talk too much. But they've also told me to move to see if I can wrap up the thing. So as I conclude this session, and I must admit it's rather premature because I would have loved to go on because I think some fascinating ideas are coming out here. But as I conclude, I'd like to do a round robin, starting with Richard. And I'd like to ask, what do you see the new normal markets becoming, and how will they become better markets? Let's start with Richard, and then we'll go to Jaswinder.
All right. Now, looking at the normal markets, I mean, and the new markets, and I want to look at African Continental Free Trade Area, the 1.2 million population, which is a huge market for Dubai, UAE. And of course, you want to penetrate this market through the hub, and which is Kenya. We would want to see reduced tariffs. That is one key area that we want to see. Harmonize of rules of origin as well, which is very important, and reduced cost of customs. Looking at approaching this, we want to see regional supply chain, which of course will improve the the integration of logistics, like one of the panelists mentioned, and also look at the common African market. So we need to look at government to government cooperation, how they must cooperate. Again, looking at adoption of regional protocol and on e-commerce as well, as we enhance e-commerce and digital economy. as well. So I want to look at how do we reduce taxes and harmonize in all these regions as well. So we want to, of course, look at the cost efficiencies and resilience. You mentioned that earlier. For me, I want to see more innovation as we re-engineer. We want to see skill building. We want to see cost reduction, new investments, and of course, rerouting of markets as well. So for me, really looking at Dubai, I want also to invite investors to look at special economic zones and industrial parks, as opposed to just looking at real estate. So we want you to come and see how we can be able to tap that market. So sectors that will be affected within the technology, one is logistics, which must be improved. Artificial intelligence also is important. Today here in Kenya, we have a Kansas City, and within the Kansas City, we are looking at artificial intelligence that is going to help in e-commerce as well. So, and again, partnerships.
I really have to ask just for 1 minute briefing statement because the organizers are behind me. Jasminder, again, same question to you. How do you see the new normal markets becoming better markets?
Well, I think for Africa specifically, because we're such a small contribution to global GDP, Africa's combined GDP is only contributes 3% to global trade. And that's primarily because Africa has, over the last 50 years, just focused on primary raw materials and exporting those primary raw materials and sending them abroad and then bringing them back as finished product. And I think that mantra is changing across the continent. Everybody is looking at value addition. What can we do differently? And you know what, we were, like I said, a month ago in December, we visited the Dubai Multi-Commodity Center, and we were shocked that our tea value addition was being done in Dubai. And so if we look at every value chain in Kenya, whether it's cotton, I mean, we grow 7% of the world's cotton, and 70% of the cotton is sent out in raw form, and we buy T-shirts and clothing out of Asia. I mean, that seriously is an opportunity for us, because the raw material we sell for $1, a finished product we buy for $15. So it really changes the paradigm. You look at the coffee value chain, exactly the same story. Look at the cocoa value chain, we grow 95% of the world's cocoa and we import chocolates. I think that whole narrative is changing, and that whole understanding of value addition is changing. And tea is a classical example for Kenya. I mean, we export 450 million kilos of tea, and our revenue generated is only $1.4 billion. And Sri Lanka, that exports less than us, 300 million kilos of tea, their revenue is $3.5 billion. So it just tells you when we don't add value, we don't bring profits back home. So with that change in narrative, I think we will actually start looking at all our traditional markets differently, because the traditional markets were being serviced by basic raw materials that Africa was growing. And you know what? We all drink English breakfast tea, but there's nothing English about it. Yeah, it's got 1 kilo Assam, it's got 1 kilo Ceylon, and it's got 1 kilo Kenya. And I asked the guys, I mean, why do you want Kenya in that English breakfast tea, which has got nothing English about it? And they said, well, Kenyan tea has got aroma and color, and it is very important for that English breakfast tea. So you know what? Maybe it's time we all drink Kenyan breakfast tea. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I can honestly tell you, English breakfast tea tastes absolutely amazing. Nothing better in the morning than English breakfast tea.
Thank you, Kenyan.
I do actually like Kenyan tea, but I have to ask the same question to Fahad, who I realize is going to a meeting. But Fahad?
Yes.
I'm sure you also drink English breakfast tea in the morning.
Sure, I do coffee, but I take tea as well. I think we have to look at things not only differently because everyone is saying that, but because we had time to think about it enough under lockdown, under new circumstances. It's not enough to have, let's say, an opportunity that we think is sellable, that opportunity that makes sense to us. It always has to be an opportunity that makes sense to the buyer or the investor. And that investor is the one who will decide. It's not myself or that destination that thought I have the best, let's say, island in the world that anyone would love to come and invest. I have to be prepared. I have to put the right laws and regulation. I have to perfect my scenario, and I have to continue learning what's happening around the world in my industry. and in the industry I want to get business into or an investment to. If I'm not doing that, it will continue to be a very important opportunity, but to myself only. We have to take it out and make sense for the investor or the buyer to invest into that product or commodity.
Thank you, thank you. And it's the whole idea about being relevant, constantly relevant. Every single day as the world changes, you have to be relevant. I'm cognizant of time. Abdullah, I'd like to ask you the same question.
Sure, Ashraf. Well, for me, I think it's nothing called normal or a better market. It has always been a consumer-derived market and will continue to be the future. Today, the global trade market dynamic have changed and each trade is different, as I mentioned earlier. It's important to focus on customers and move ahead of their needs. And that's what we have been doing in DP World. And we like to think of ourselves as a smart trade enabler, connecting all the dots in the supply chain. This was what we have been doing here in Dubai. And we like to take this with our partner and implement the same in Africa. And we look forward to working with our friends in Kenya to help us achieve this goal together as a business partners in Africa.
Thank you very much. And of course, the whole idea of being client-centric, putting the client at the center of everything you do. Mohsen.
Yeah, I think it's time to have the builders see no more English breakfast tea. One of the things we need to do is build that relationship. I like what Richard mentioned, His Excellency, earlier. It is how do we collaborate? How do we get the customs engagement? You know, why not have a Kenyan customs authority sitting in our ports and airports here for a pre-clearance, so that when it lands in Kenya, it lands pre-cleared and very access. Because as long as cargo is sitting, they don't add value. So I think that's where I mean, just when the rightly mentioned is, yes, if you know, the Kenyans would start adding more value to the raw materials that they export, certainly it brings in more sort of that trade. I mean, I think DP World's connectivity, the Emirates airline, these things can add quite a lot of to that supply chain. Yes, Sri Lanka might be doing quite a lot of the tea trade with value add, but I think where Dubai comes in is they serve that logistics and supply chain to serve that Sri Lankan tea to be sitting on for an English breakfast. That's it. I rest that.
English breakfast would be nothing without Kenyan tea. But I do agree with you. The idea that, you know, you have, I mean, if I can go to the US and do pre-clearance in Abu Dhabi or Dubai, I don't see why we cannot do that with customs. And you make a very, very important point. Abdurrahman, I'd like to ask you the same question.
Yes, Doctor. For us, we see the digital trade will become the new norm, bringing with it market and cost efficiencies. It will not apply on the international trade, but as you see, every single phone now has Noon, Amazon, and the other platforms that provides and make it easier for the consumers to purchase whatever they require. We also see a greater move toward regional supply, and we believe that Dubai will play an important role here, especially for East Africa.
Thank you very much, Abdurrahman. And don't forget, when we talk about platforms, the Africa's largest platform, Jumia. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. Jaswinder will correct me, right? But actually based in Dubai. I'd like to thank all my panelists. I know some of you are doing 2 or 3. I think, Abdullah, you're doing Global Trade Review as well today. Yeah, wonderful event. I've been associated with them for 10 years. So it's very nice to see all our panelists here, many of you doing 2 events, but you took the time to be with us. Your Excellency Richard, Jaswinder, we will have some Kenyan tea as well. Abdullah, Mohsen, Fahad Gagawi, and thank you very, very much for a wonderful session. I'm sure that could have gone on for a lot longer. Now I'd like to conclude the panel session and hand you over to Nafeli. Nafeli, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Ashraf. I would like to extend a warm thank you to our export and trade panelists. May I ask again Mr. Walid Hareb Al-Falahi for the closing remarks.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am really thankful for the inside panel discussion that happened today. I'm really, even though I know a lot about Kenya and UAE, I think I learned a lot today. Also would like to extend great thanks and heartfelt thanks to His Excellency Thani Zyudi for honoring us today and supporting us in this starting new challenge to bring Africa and Dubai together, and also building trade relation between UAE and Africa. I would like also to thank the esteemed speakers who shared their remarkable journey and knowledge with us and how we can do business in this, what we call the new norm. Also, I would like to thank our partners, Dubai Exports, DP World, Dubai South, Dubai Islamic Economy, all the partners that have contributed with their time and effort and support in making this a success. Special thanks to Dubai Export for being the main partner for trade and export. And tomorrow it's a new beginning, a new start, and it will be around investment and free zone. And we promise you things hopefully always will be better, inshallah, and we always can bridge the gaps between Africa and Dubai, and especially Kenya as a kicking start. Thank you very much for having us, and we look forward to see you again. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walid. Your Excellencies, honorable speakers, guest panelists, our partners and visitors, we thank you for being a part of Dubai Week in Africa. We hope that this platform will bring more investment and partnership opportunities between our countries. As we end today's program, allow me to acknowledge and extend my thanks to today's sponsors, Dubai Economic Development Department and Dubai Exports. I would like to invite everyone to attend the second day of our event that will tackle free zone and investment. It's tomorrow from 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. Kenya time and 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. UAE time. We look forward to having you all tomorrow. Thank you.